Coming up on Valley View News, Echo Park Lake's controversial fence starts coming down after 2 years.
Put them in a place where they could find help.
Plus, rain is posing a challenge for LA street vendors. And could artificial intelligence be taking over newsrooms?
What's going to stop people from questioning every photograph they see in the news?
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Sonia Hugh.
And I'm Zina Taher.
A Huntington Beach protest over the indictment of former President Donald Trump turned violent over the weekend. 2 of the dozens of demonstrators there were injured when onlookers hit them on their heads with skateboards. One of the victims was taken to the hospital. Both are expected to be okay. Trump is facing more than 30 counts related to business fraud. He is being charged for alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels. A $130,000 payment was issued and recorded as a campaign expense to keep Daniels from speaking about the alleged affair between her and Trump. The attorney for Trump says they will battle all charges and says the expense was quoted as a personal expense.
This was a personal expenditure, not a campaign expenditure. Had it been a campaign expenditure, he would have used campaign funds, and then, of course, we'd be talking about here today the outrage that Donald Trump used campaign funds for a personal expenditure. They'd be baying for his scalp.
He is the first president in U.S. history to face criminal charges. The former president will appear in a Manhattan court this week to be arraigned.
Measure ULA is set to kick in this month, and Los Angeles may soon have hundreds of millions of dollars available to use for affordable housing and homelessness programs. The so-called mansion tax was approved by voters last November. It's a 4% tax on properties that sell for $5 million or more. That tax increases to 5.5% if the property is worth more than $10 million. Some real estate brokers say it could prevent developers from building apartment complexes in LA. That could slow the number of new housing units built in the city. But supporters say it'll raise $900 million each year for housing and rehabilitation. The mansion tax applies to all real estate sales in LA, including apartments, retail, and other structures.
After 1,000 days, LA's COVID-19 emergency has officially ended. It brings an end to any COVID-related renter protections in LA. Masking is still required by employees in healthcare facilities. Restaurants will no longer be able to use outdoor seating on public walkways or parking lots unless they have a permit.
The city of Sacramento has announced it will let a homeless encampment stay on public land. The decision comes as groups of unhoused people have been living on a city-owned lot for more than a year. City officials have agreed to lease the land for free for up to 4 months to a nonprofit group. People can park their cars or RVs on the property, and the city will even provide up to 33 trailers for people to live in. The city says the site will be self-governed by what it calls a resident council. There will also be an operations plan that must be approved by the city council in the next 30 days.
After nearly 2 years, a controversial fence surrounding Echo Park Lake has been taken down. Valley View News' Zina Taher has more on why the fence removal faced support and opposition.
LA natives visiting Echo Park this week may have noticed something a little different. The chain link fence that bordered the neighborhood's lake for 2 years is gone. The fence was installed under the direction of former Councilman Mitch O'Farrell after hundreds of unhoused people were evicted from the park.
There is a really large encampment of houseless people that were living here, and they had a really complex and impressive community network that they had built up over time.
Now, newly elected Councilman Hugo Soto Martinez has had the fence removed. He plans to have service providers, outreach workers, and unarmed responders stationed at the park to prevent another encampment and address any safety issues.
It's better that they come here and we know where they're coming, and so to prevent that from happening again, put them in a place where they could find help.
The crews commissioned by Soto Martinez made really quick work of the chain link fence that used to surround the border of this entire park. And now this is pretty much all that's left.
I mean, it definitely feels like it belongs to the city now. I think being encaged, it was a little weird.
A neighborhood group has put up a petition to keep the fence up. It has garnered more than 1,000 signatures. Commenters cited fears about a new homeless encampment popping up and additional crime in the area. Reporting from Echo Park for Valley View News, I'm Zena Taher.
The city of LA is stepping in to take control of 2,000 housing units on Skid Row that are in danger of being shut down. LA Mayor Karen Bass and City Attorney Heidi Philistine Soto announced a plan to repair the units this week. It comes after the Skid Row Housing Trust said it wouldn't be able to keep operating its 29 buildings any longer. Conditions have deteriorated in units and the trust does not have the money for repairs. The buildings currently house 1,500 people.
It could cost California more than $800 billion to compensate descendants of slaves for generations of over-policing, disproportionate incarceration, and housing discrimination. Economists say that's more than 2.5 times the state's $300 billion annual budget. The total does not include a recommended amount of money to be paid to each individual. Instead, lawmakers will need to decide how much each person is owed. The predicted budget does not include a recommended $1 million to make up for health disparities that have shortened African American lifespans. The task force that calculated the money needed for reparations will submit recommendations to the California State Legislature this summer.
A California bill aims to create an Amber Alert for missing individuals in African American communities. Senate Bill 6373, or the Ebony Alert, would specialize in missing Black women, girls, and youth. Senator Stephen Bradford, who proposed the bill, says they're often ignored. He says their cases get less attention from authorities and the media and often from law enforcement. Senator Bradford says he's hoping the bill makes it to the Senate floor and then to the Assembly from there.
Tourism in the San Bernardino County mountains has been scarce since the area was hit by recent storms. Locals say this time of year is normally busy, with visitors hitting the slope and supporting small local businesses. But this year's intense snowstorms forced many highways in the area to close to anyone who wasn't a resident. Although most roads are now open, many business owners say they haven't seen the expected number of tourists.
The southbound 5 freeway in northern LA County was closed over the weekend for repairs. Recent rains led to a landslide that collapsed the freeway's shoulder north of Castaic and south of Gorman. Video from California Department of Transportation's Twitter shows chunks of pavement falling off the roadway last week as the landslide grew in size. 2 right lanes were closed for days before repairs were made. I'm so done with the rain in LA causing everything to be destroyed.
Yeah, that's just north of where I live, so I'm really glad I wasn't driving up there recently. At least one person was displaced after an apartment building caught fire over the weekend. Valley View News' Lupita Baltazar was at the scene as dozens of firefighters tried to put out the flames.
Fire crews responding to a 2-story building engulfed in flames in a Panorama City neighborhood. Authorities say it started around 10:30 a.m. in the 9900 block of Van Nuys Boulevard.
Oh, I was not in the building, but one of the tenants called me that the whole building was on fire, and I got scared, but I'm glad it was only one unit.
Rafael Morales is the building manager. He says all the residents in the building were terrified the fire would extend to other apartments, so they evacuated immediately.
I'm not a person that cries in front of people, but I just end up crying because it just brought me back to my father's death, and I didn't want nobody else to get hurt.
Firefighters were able to extinguish the flames before they extended to other units, but at one point the flames were so intense there was a slight risk of collapse.
So we went in, we did aggressive fire attack inside the unit. We also had some of the roof material burning as well, so we knocked that down, went inside. Once we got a quick knockdown, we did a primary search for any victims, animals or people inside, which we found none.
The fire department arrived to the scene and they said no one was injured, but the fire remains under investigation. Reporting from Panorama City for Valley View News, I am Lupita Baltazar.
Lupita, thank you. Governor Gavin Newsom signed a law that could lead to a cap on oil refinery earnings, and it's the first of its kind in the nation. The California Energy Commission will act as a watchdog to investigate alleged price gouging. If there is evidence of it, the commission can decide to place penalties on and earning caps on all companies. The law would also make oil refiners provide additional data about their operations. It comes as a response to the record high gas prices last year, which can reach more than $6 per gallon.
2 men are dead after shots were fired during an altercation in Hollywood over the weekend. Authorities say a group of people got into an argument in a parking lot near the intersection of Sunset Boulevard and La Brea Avenue. During the altercation, the suspect pulled out a gun and fired multiple rounds at 2 of the men in the group. One victim died at the scene and the other died at a hospital. The suspect has not been found, but if you have any information, you're urged to contact the LAPD immediately.
A 54-year-old man has been charged in connection with sexually assaulting 3 young girls in public places in Irvine. Christopher Edward was arrested last month after allegedly sexually assaulting a 9-year-old at an Orange County library. He was released after he posted a $500,000 bail. Edward was arrested again after he was tied to 2 sexual assault cases that occurred at Target grocery stores in 2021. This time, he's being held without bail and faces maximum sentence of 25 years of life in prison. The Orange County District Attorney's Office says he faces several charges, including a misdemeanor count of indecent exposure and 1 count of forcibly lewd act on a child.
More to come on Valley View News. Pope Francis is out of the hospital and returns for a Palm Sunday service. And could your Social Security checks shrink? The answer after our break.
In terms of hate crimes, I think there is so much more work to be done to make that choice to continue to love.
Welcome back. We take a look into a potential deal between North Korea and Russia. It may include weapons in exchange for foods. Andrea Peña Reyes is in our digital media center with the details. Andrea?
Thank you, Sina. More on that in a moment. But we begin with some news on our coast. The U.S. is calling on Russia to release imprisoned Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. Secretary of State Antony Blinken demanded the release in a phone call to Russia leaders. Gershkovich reported in Russia for 6 years before he was arrested last week on spying charges. He's the first American journalist to be arrested in Russia and charged with spying since the 1980s. During the call, Blinken also requested the release of a former Marine convicted of spying on Russia, who has been held in the country since 2018. A Mexican court has issued arrest orders for 6 people in connection to a fire that killed 39 migrants at the detention facility in the city of Juarez. They include 3 officials from the National Immigration Institute, 2 security guards contracted by the agency, and the migrant accused of starting the fire. 5 of the 6 had already been arrested and will face charges of homicide causing injuries. Investigators are still trying to determine how the fire started. Pope Francis led the Palm Sunday service a day after he was discharged from the hospital. He was hospitalized Wednesday after complaints of breathing difficulties. He quickly recovered with an infusion of antibiotics. Despite his health scare, the Vatican says it will continue with Easter events this week. The Pope thanked the probe for their prayers at the end of the service. North Korea wants to make a deal with Russia to exchange weapons for food. National Security Coordinator John Kirby says they are concerned that Russia will gain over 2,000 weapons. A deal like this between the countries will directly violate some UN Security Council resolutions. Kirby says they have also taken note of the North Korea recent statement that they will not provide or sell arms to Russia. The relationship between the 2 countries will continue to be monitored. Higher gas prices will be underway. Saudi Arabia and other OPEC oil producers announced they will cut production by more than 1 million barrels a day throughout the end of 2023, starting in May. The move comes as a surprise. Analysis says it will cause an immediate spike in gas prices in the United States. The ABC News reports prices could spike about 26 cents per gallon nationwide. That is not including the hike in prices expected when refineries switch to their more expensive summer gasoline blend. The move will likely strain ties between OPEC members and the United States. The U.S. has called for increasing oil production to help lower prices in the West amid the war between Russia and Ukraine. That's all for international news. I'm Andrea Peña Reyes in our Digital Media Center. Back to you in the studio.
Here locally, heavy weather conditions have caused challenges for street vendors. Some are struggling to make ends meet. Valley View News' Reina Torres has the story.
Street vendors in the cities of Hawthorne and Englewood face challenges during winter weather conditions. The rain doesn't attract many customers. Vendors are left without profit. And if that wasn't bad enough, the cold and the rain often ruin their merchandise. Adriana Sanchez sells flowers in Englewood, and this year's heavy rain has affected her business. She says being in the cold makes her body shiver and can get sick quickly. Ernesto Garcia sells fruit in Hawthorne. He says the rain and cold often make him sick and make it nearly impossible to make ends meet. He says he tries his best to save his money to cover his living expenses.
Street vendors like Ernesto, on a good day, he makes about $120. He sells his fruit plates for $10.
Street vendor Alfredo Gomez helps out in his mother's taco business. He says the rain can ruin their merchandise.
We do come out with this weather, it affects every single thing in the stand.
Financial advisor Carlos Guaman says a street vendor or business owner needs two simple things:
a budget. And the second thing, they need to have a backup plan for 6 months of all the expenses. That's in case something happens.
Reporting from Englewood for Valley View News, I'm Reina Torres.
Thank you, Reina. American Social Security checks could get a lot smaller in 2034 if lawmakers don't act to address a pending shortfall. That's because the combined Social Security trust funds, which help support payouts that are expected to run dry this year. That fund's reserves will be depleted, and the program's continuing income will only cover 80% of benefits owed. The deficiency would come 1 year earlier than the trustees projected last year. About 66 million Americans received Social Security benefits in 2022.
President Biden approved a disaster declaration for Arkansas after tornadoes affected the South and Midwest. The state was hit by a massive tornado last week, killing at least 5 people and injuring several others. The declaration provides federal funding to help with recovery efforts in the state's Cross, Lone Oak, and Pulaski counties. Other counties will also be included once further damage assessments are complete.
The federal government has filed a lawsuit against Norfolk Southern over environmental damage caused by the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. The U.S. Department of Justice is seeking to hold the company accountable for polluting the nation's waterway. Government officials say tests have not found dangerous levels of chemicals in the air or the water. Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw has repeatedly apologized for the derailment, and the company has pledged to pay for the cleanup.
NATO has officially banned staff members from using TikTok on their devices. It is due to concerns over the Chinese government potentially accessing user data through its parent company ByteDance. Earlier this month, TikTok CEO Shou Chew informed lawmakers the Chinese government had no access to user data. Instead, he says TikTok stores its data in the U.S. with American company Oracle. Western governments are still skeptical. I can understand why they're skeptical.
I personally, I think it's an overreaction, but I love TikTok, so that's me. When we come back, the jury has reached a verdict in Gwyneth Paltrow's trial. Also, WrestleMania slams Hollywood. Stay with us.
Today, we face an unprecedented crisis. Tens of millions of refugees have been forced from their homes. But you can make a difference. Turn disruption and despair to hope and opportunity. Even small amounts make a big difference. provide shelter, support, or jobs in your community. The more we understand, the greater sense of belonging we create. Act now. Visit supportcrisisrelief.org.
Welcome back. This month's Vogue Philippines issue featured Vogue's oldest cover model ever. Apo Wango is a 106-year-old tattoo artist from Buscalan. She is one of Philippines' traditional Kalinga tattoo artists. Wangud uses a bamboo stick, a pomelo tree's thorn, water, and coal to create the tattoos. Since only blood relatives can inherit this art, she's been training her grandnieces. Vogue Philippines editor-in-chief says Wangud represents the ideal beauty for Filipino culture. Have you ever considered getting a tattoo in the Philippines?
I have, but the method that she used seems really unique and I've never tried it before, so I'm not really sure. A jury dismissed the claims of a retired optometrist who sued Iron Man actress Gwyneth Paltrow for ski collision injuries he suffered in 2016. Terry Sanderson and Paltrow crashed at a Utah ski resort's beginner run. He sued the actress for more than $300,000 in damages, including 4 broken ribs and a severe concussion. However, Paltrow only asked for $1 plus attorney's fees. The decision ultimately hinged on which skier was higher up on the slope. According to a largely unknown skier code of conduct, the downhill skier has the right of way. After a brief deliberation, the jury decided that Sanderson was at fault.
Dolly Parton and Garth Brooks will host the 58th Academy of Country Music Awards. Parton says she's excited to share the stage with Brooks for the first time. That same night, Parton will also premiere her lead single from her new rock album. The nominees and performers haven't been announced yet, but the Academy of Country Music says country music's biggest stars will be celebrated. The awards show will be live from the Ford Center in Texas on May 11th. Prime Video will stream it worldwide, and it'll be rebroadcast for free on Amazon Freevee the next day.
Hundreds of tech leaders and researchers, including Elon Musk, are calling for a pause in the development of advanced artificial intelligence systems. They warned in an open letter that AI presents risks to society and humanity. Technology experts say AI developers were locked in a rat race to develop increasingly powerful technology that they can understand or control. They called for a pause in AI development to allow time for the creation of safety protocols. The letter called on governments to forcibly stop development if developers were unable to take a self-regulated break.
Now the unknowns of AI are causing fear in technology experts and the general public. Valley View News' Isabella Warren tells us about the impacts of AI.
Artificial intelligence can create incredibly realistic images that are not that far off from photos taken by cameras. While this technology has brought many benefits, it's also raised concerns about its potential impact on journalism and politics. California State University Northridge professor David Blumenkrantz has been researching the abilities of these AI programs.
How can I put it? Like the illegitimate stepchild of citizen journalism, right? Where they can just become part of the dialogue in this sort of, lazy way.
An AI-based website, ChatGPT, can be used to write anything. Does this text look familiar? That's because I used the site to write the entire script for this story. AI can make it seem like I'm in front of the White House right now, when actually I'm at the studio on the other side of the country. AI-generated images have also been used to create fake news stories, which can be difficult to spot. Images of Donald Trump being arrested spread across the internet recently, and many viewers believed it.
But when it's misrepresented as news, that erodes the credibility. And it's like a slippery slope. Once you do it once, what's going to stop people from questioning every photograph they see in the news?
As newsrooms continue to experiment with new ways of telling stories and reaching audiences, it will be interesting to see how AI develops and how it can be used most effectively. Reporting in Northridge for Valley View News, I'm Isabella Warren.
Isabella, thank you. Now for a look at sports. Dodgers' Tyrese Thompson stole the show. He hit 3 home runs and 8 RBIs in a season debut, which had not happened since 1920s. The Dodgers rolled to a 10-1 victory over the Arizona Diamondbacks over the weekend. Thompson not only took his frustrations on a left-hander, but he helped the Dodgers to an easy victory. Dodgers manager Dave Roberts say Thompson will start in the outfield again several times this season.
The 39th WrestleMania went Hollywood. SoFi Stadium announced WrestleMania broke a new live attendance record, hosting almost 170,000 fans over the course of 2 nights. The first night, Rhea Ripley got the new SmackDown Women's Champion title. She wrestled against Charlotte Flair in a physical match. On the second night, Roman Reigns defeated Cody Rhodes in a dramatic back-and-forth wrestling match. Did you ever watch WWE as a child?
No, I don't, but after this, I probably will. Matrix Resurrection actress Priyanka Chopra Jonas has revealed why she left her thriving career in the Indian movie industry Bollywood. In a podcast, Chopra Jonas said she felt like she was, quote, pushed into a corner of the industry. She said people from Bollywood were not casting her and that she, quote, had beef with people. Chopra Jonas said she was also tired of the politics surrounding the industry. So when she got an opportunity to work in the music and movie industry here in America, she took it. She has since continued a successful career in Hollywood and will be starring in a spy drama TV series Citadel, out this month.
A roster of A-list Hollywood actors appear in the official trailer for director Wes Anderson's latest film, Asteroid City. Scarlett Johansson, Steve Carell, Tom Hanks, and Margot Robbie were just some of the familiar faces on screen. The trailer shows actor Jason Schwartzman's character asking his father-in-law, played by Tom Hanks, to assist him with his kids while he deals with his broken-down car in a place called Asteroid City. Soon, aliens arrive, and everyone is stuck in Asteroid City, quarantined, and told not to leave the area. The movie is set in 1955 in a fictional American desert town. Asteroid City will hit theaters on June 16th.
Do you own an iPhone? If so, check out its newest software update, iOS 16.4. The update includes several features, security enhancement, and new emojis. The 21 new emojis are a combination of animals, hand gestures, and objects. Apple also released a software update for the Apple Watch. You can find both updates through the settings. Are you excited? I'm a huge Apple fan.
Yeah, I love the really weird emojis. I like to pick obscure ones and send them to people so they don't know what it means. It's very cryptic. That's all for us at Valley View News. I'm Zina Taher.
And I'm Sonia Hugh. For stories any time of day, go to our website, csunvalleyview.com. Thanks for watching.